Okay, debate over the voice is ramping up. The No campaign will launch a cold calling blitz next week, surveying 2 million Australians. And it's just one of those debates that people are either afraid to get into because they're worried about what people might say about them, or they're going in hammer and tong, for lack of a better phrase, and attacking the other side.
It's becoming increasingly bitter at politics level, but even in friendships level. I've just started learning to play bridge. It shows how old I am. And one of my friends is a very pro-yes campaigner, and there was absolutely no tolerance of any other view. And I think what's happening politically is sort of dribbling down to the populace, and we're not sure either. But I think the really sad thing is that as we become more embroiled in should we have the voice, should we not have the voice, what we're not talking about is whether the voice will work. We keep moving further away from that central question. And Gavin Morris, a school principal in Alice Springs, wrote a beautiful piece in The Australian yesterday where he said he has worked in that area for the last year. He came in, and one of the very first things that happened was a 6-year-old attempted to take their own life, and he couldn't get hold of members of the family. And he is basically arguing that they need a boarding school attached to the school so that children who are in jeopardy can be staying there. Yeah. Now, I have to ask, where is the modelling that shows how the voice will solve that situation? My partner went to the Melville Island in the Tiwi Islands. People don't want to work up there. So where is the modelling that's saying the voice will do this? That's what I want to see.
Well, I think they'll show us after.
Yeah, but that's not soon enough. You won't get it across the line if you don't show it beforehand.
Kelly, what's your thoughts?
Look, I think the research that they're doing at the moment is going to be fascinating because there's such a huge proportion of undecideds or soft no's and soft yeses, and that's what these robocalls are. The calls and the research is going to show us, the why and what people are thinking at the moment, because there are so many undecideds. But at the moment, you'll see not just the No campaign launching huge market research, but the Yes campaign actually going out there and knocking on doors as well. A huge return to grassroots interactions, which is how we saw the rise of a new type of politician last federal election as well.
One Nation leader, Pauline Hanson, is calling on the government to establish a minister for men. Now, you actually spoke about this, well, not specifically, but support for men and boys. And I've done exactly the same on this. And it's almost you're considered anti-feminist if you say, well, hey, we've got to look after men too, or we can't weaponise the the Me Too movement against men. But, she makes a point. They're valuable as well.
I don't like to say that I agree with her, but I don't agree.
No, say that.
I don't agree with the Minister for Men. I really reject bigger government and more bureaucracies. Yeah. That's very easy. But she makes a very good point, and it's a point that I actually also made in my inaugural speech in New South Wales Parliament recently, and that is we should absolutely be champions of women. I know every one of us on this table has been and will continue to be, but let's not forget about our beautiful boys. Men are more likely to die than women, 3 times more likely to die from suicide. They have bigger health issues. They have shorter lifespans. They're more likely to smoke. They're more likely to drink. Our country blokes suffer deeply and certainly communities within there. So we absolutely need to focus on men and men's health in particular. And rather than a minister for men's health, let's go back to what the coalition did federally and at state and do a comprehensive report into men's health and then follow through. Let's not just drop a report, talk about it for 2 days and forget about it. Let's be genuine about our desire to make sure that every boy and every man, our dads, our brothers, our sons thrive.
Yeah, well said. Do you think we need a minister, Angela?
I don't think we need a minister, but I think we need to acknowledge that if we look after men, we're also looking after women, because if we look after men in instances of domestic violence and consent, and we teach and we educate and we support, and their health outcomes are better and there are fewer of them in prison, then women will thrive and flourish as well.
I want to talk a little bit, without warning, about the cricket and the comms, because we were texting a little bit earlier. You think something's happened to England recently?
Well, I lived in England for a decade and I've never seen an England like this. And I'm a total Anglophile. I love the English. All my friends are English. I'm going there in September. But
well, be careful then what you say. We have a big following on YouTube over there.
Oh, well, no, I have to say there's something wrong with the English. They have lost their mettle. What has happened to them? I think it could be the Queen dying. I think they've lost their stiff upper lip. They've obviously got a problem with the colonies. They're losing left, right and centre and everything. They're not cool. And England was always cool. Really? Yeah, I love
probably the
English.
last word I'd use to describe English. What do you think? Have you been watching the cricket and the Ashes and the way that they acted at Lords, and they are stiff up the lip, think they're above everyone?
They're acting like bankers with a W, right? I have to say, is it such an Aussie thing? It was the only descriptive term I could come up with for some of that behaviour. But I did hear that a couple of the Aussie politicians were playing against their poly counterparts in the UK, and they did win. And, we owe those two politicians a great debt of gratitude. But yeah, let's play there. Let's play the game.
Yeah, I love that. Now, I want to end on a little bit more of a sombre note. At the start of the show, I spoke about Ukraine and highlighted the examples of some children who have died recently. In fact, someone sent me an email this afternoon. I've written a piece in the paper saying that since the war started, which is 500 days ago yesterday, 3 children a day are dying over there. I think we should do more as a country, but it's not leading the news anymore. It hasn't captured us like it did at the start. Do you care about Ukraine, or do you feel removed? Do you think of your own children when you see a headline saying that a child has died? Where do you sit on this?
Yeah, and some of those early stories where a mother would put a child on a train unaccompanied to get them across the border, to get them out of the country. And it was like those books that I read from the wartime when I was a kid. Look, I know from speaking to friends in the UK and in Europe that it's much more front of mind for them. So I think geography, it's the centre of our, our distance is sort of detaches us from it.
Absolutely.
But to your point, we should be having more documentaries about it. We should be, seeking. Well, the Prime Minister should be more involved there. We should be talking about it more as an issue because, where does it end?
Well, it's at the heart of democracy as well. And even, as I spoke about at the top of the show, the power of our response globally is the greatest deterrent to something like China invading Taiwan, which is much more in our backyard, which is much closer to us.
It is, and the stories you highlight, the ones that you remember, the memorable things, where you're touched, or when you talk about the kids and when you see those images, and they're the images that drive that home. I feel sometimes we'll sit in front of our TVs and we watch the news and we read the papers, and you've only got so much to give, and there's a lot to worry about.
To an extent,
but
it's awful.
If we watch the US political cycle, I think you're going to be even more disappointed because I think there'll be a further drive away from that support, that military support that
Donald Trump has made that very clear.
And so, maybe the focus is back on humanity.
What a lovely way to finish. Kelly Sloan, Angela Mollard, brilliant as always. Thank you so much for joining me.